Hi there. You're about to watch the makeup video that goes along with a makeup quiz for the mandatory org leaders meetings that happen in fall of 2025. Please make sure to pay close attention to the information provided on the screen and verbally so that you can answer all quiz questions correctly prior to submitting your quiz. Quizzes must be completed with 100% accuracy in order to be considered a completed step in the recognition process. Today's agenda includes a few steps. We'll talk a little bit about recognition, give you a couple updates about important policies, provide some information about upcoming trainings and resources, make sure you have the basics down as it relates to Connect 2, and then review next steps to make sure that recognition is complete. So let's start with recognition. You've already gotten an extension to October 1st in order to complete this process. But we need to make sure everything is complete by October 1st. So for many of you, this video and quiz may be your last step, which is great, and others it may not be true. So on the screen, you'll see two links, and I'd like you to make sure to check both of them. To find out what's left or missing in the process, you can use tinyurl.com/org status 2526. That's a spreadsheet that our office maintains that shows what's missing for your organization. If all it says is org leaders meeting in the missing column, then once you're done with this quiz and you've passed it, you've finished all of your steps. But if there are other pieces, you may need to finish additional steps, and those can be found through the Connect 2 page, the frequently asked forms or frequently used forms, as well as the link that's provided on the screen. That's tinyurl.com/orgrec2526. All links with directions on who needs to complete them and how they get completed are provided there. Groups that fail to complete all steps by October 1st will not be recognized for the fall semester. You will, however, be able to re-establish your group in the spring. In order to do that, though, you'll need to restart the process in November. One important resource that you have is our Dean of Students office. Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students Tanya Schmidt is available, as well as her staff, to help any student or student organization with issues of safety, welfare, and good experiences here on campus. If you have a concern that you'd like to report, you of course can go directly to the Dean of Students office's website or visit them directly in Anderson Hall. But you also can go through Connect. On the home page of Connect, you'll see a link or an icon that says have a concern, report it. If you click there, it'll take you right to the Dean of Students reporting page. So you can let them know something that's going on with you or with others, and if they're able to help, they will reach out and do so. Another important resource available to all of our student organizations is a template for behavioral expectations for meetings and events. Most of our events go off without a hitch, right? Students are happy, they have experienced something interesting or something they're passionate about. Sometimes we have events that have people who are disruptive in their behavior. Not that they're disagreeing, that's not the issue, but that they're actually stopping the business that's happening in the meeting with their behavior. And that is not something that you have to tolerate. So posting what your expectations are and sharing it out with your members is a great way to make sure they know what you expect to be a part of the conversation at your meeting or event. This template is available to you through the Org Leaders Guide as well as through the Connect events process. So you're welcome to use it as you will moving forward with future events and meetings. Another important resource that we have is the Recognize, Respond, and Refer training that's available to all students and staff at UW-Whitewater and actually University of Wisconsin system as a whole. This is a training that's provided at no charge and is open to all, and it's specifically about being prepared for or helping with preventing suicide. If you have a friend or a loved one, if you have even an acquaintance that you see signs of risk, having some tools in your toolbox to be able to help that student get to the resources they need, or help that person to see themselves as the valuable human that they are, is really valuable to have before you have to face that kind of circumstance. The Recognize, Respond, Refer training is a way for us to have the language we need and to know what our resources are to make sure that people are getting the help that they need to maintain a healthy life. Policies are everywhere on our campus, and there are a large number of them that as a student organization you will never really deal with. But there are some that are pretty common, and we want to make sure we're going to talk through a couple of them during this meeting today. All the policies listed on the screen are policies that you can read and reach through the Org Leaders Guide, as well as through our campus policies page. And there are probably another 50 or 60 additional policies that are also available at that campus policies page. We're going to talk in depth about just a couple of these today. To find those policies, as I mentioned, you want to go to the Org Leaders Guide or the campus policies page, both of which are linked in the lower part of Connect's front page. So if you scroll down the home page of uww.edu/connect, you will see a link for the Student Org Leaders Guide, as well as campus policies for student organizations. Those are both great resources to make sure you're familiar with what you're expected to do and what you're allowed and not allowed to do as well. There are some other great links there also about reserving spaces in rooms, about understanding org recognition. eLead is our resource videos for different topics that student organizations and their leaders may need to be successful. One policy that is critical to mention is the campus's anti-hazing policy. Anti-hazing laws across the nation have changed recently, and so they have really broadened the definition of what a group is. Students or people coming together with shared background, shared identity, shared mission. Doesn't necessarily have to be an organized class or group or team in order to fit that definition. Hazing is not allowed, quite basically, right? But it's a little more complicated than that, in that people often start very innocently and it tends to build or expand as the years go on until it's something that's out of control. So it's really important to think about how you are welcoming members or encouraging members to maintain that membership in ways that are respectful of them as human beings. So the Whitewater anti-hazing policy defines hazing as any intentional, knowing, or reckless act committed by a person, whether on their own or in concert with others, against another person or persons, regardless of the willingness of the other person, that does some kind of harm to that person. And the list is significant and it's long, specifically related to initiation into, affiliation with, or maintenance of membership to a group. Okay, all of these bullet points are based on examples, things that have actually happened, and the idea that we would tolerate any of this behavior in our organizations is frankly unimaginable to me. But it's very important that you're aware that not only is this an issue as a student, it's an issue as a student organization, it's an issue as a citizen. So what we need to know as Warhawks is that hazing of any kind is illegal and strictly prohibited at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. UW-Whitewater seeks to promote a safe environment where students may participate in activities and organizations without compromising their health, their safety, or their welfare. You can view a number of resources at the Student Affairs website listed here on hazing prevention. Quite often as student org leaders, you're put in positions where other members are trying to plan things, and you're going to be the one that has to say, yep, that's a good idea, or no, that's not. The hazing prevention website that Student Affairs has out there for you to see is going to give you some resources that are going to help you make good decisions. And of course, student activities and involvement staff are always there to help you make those decisions as well. Another policy that we discuss with students on the regular is fundraising. Our fundraiser policy and our sales and solicitation policy are both applicable to student organizations, and they really define what is allowed on campus as a fundraiser and what isn't. As a rule, most fundraisers are selling tickets or selling shirts or selling things to students, and those are all typically approvable based on the policy. Where we end up with the most questions or confusion is typically around food. So I want to make sure to point out a couple of things. First thing, if you want to sell food on campus, it needs to be either a baked good or a candy item. Those are the only things that are allowed. Shelf stable, they can come from a store or be made from home, individually packaged, but they should be either a baked good or a candy item. All other food is not going to be allowed in direct sale. We have made some exceptions with pre-sales of food. So if your group would like to sell maybe food plates or something that has to be made and heated up or chilled before it can be served, those are things that you could potentially do as a pre-sale, meaning that you go around, you take orders, and then on a separate occasion, you deliver those orders to those that have paid you. Food is not to be delivered using a university facility, so no renting or reserving tables at the UC to hand out the things people ordered or using spaces in the UC or campus in order to hand those things out as a pickup spot. Another reminder about fundraisers, the campus does have raffle licenses. And as long as you're raising money for the business of your organization, that fits the definition of how our license can be used. You do have to apply to use that license so that we know who's using it, because there are regulations we have to follow. Know that both the fundraising approval and raffle use forms are available on Connect To through the frequently used forms tab in the menu. Potlucks are something that we see student groups want to do quite often. Potlucks are, by definition, meant to be a grouping of people who know each other, who are sharing a part of themselves through their food. It is not an event that would be open to other people. You wouldn't be charging. It's not advertised to campus. This is a small group of students who know one another, who are each going to share a part of who they are through food. So what we have provided for you here is a checklist, and if you can confidently confirm that you say yes to every question on that checklist, then you are more than likely doing a potluck, and you'll probably, as a student org, have no issues. Usually where we see confusion, current members is one of the requirements. Is everybody there a current member? And the answer needs to be yes. Potential new members are not current members, so no recruitment events should be using potlucks. Current members does include your campus advisor. So of course, your current student members absolutely would be included. Your advisor is considered a member in the sense of a potluck. And then affiliation with UW is an expectation as well. And that means that if they work for campus, if they're a student on campus, or if they have what's called POI, person of interest status with our HR office, that's typically some of our faith-based organizations have off-campus representatives that have relationships with campus as well. Those are all included as affiliated with the university. Everybody else, unfortunately, is not. If you need somebody to walk through this with you, you can absolutely reach out to the Hawkard office and talk to Fabio, or you can come visit me in Student Activities and Involvement and ask for Kim, and we'll figure it out together. We'll continue on with the third slide about food. In this case, we're talking about when you can have food on campus that doesn't go through catering. And so we've built a chart. Know that this policy is hopefully changing for the better for organizations, but we're waiting for some approval processes there. So know that we recognize that food is an important part of bringing people together, and that student groups typically have a very fixed or minimal budget that they're working with. So campus has worked through our dining contracts to have exceptions or exemptions for student organizations under certain circumstances. And if you look at the chart here on the screen, we're going to work our way from the top to the bottom. If you can find your way through and follow the rules as outlined to a place where it says no catering is required, then you have the ability to go to Domino's or Walmart or Toppers or whatever off-site food location you'd like to purchase the food for your event. So let's walk our way through it pretty quickly. The first question is, are you a recognized organization or not? Only recognized organizations have this exception. Departments, teams, and non-recognized organizations do not have this exception. So we're working our way down from there. The next question is this an open public event or a private event? If you are hosting an event that is open to anybody on campus, then you're promoting an event, right? That's an event. Events on campus, you must use catering, full stop. If it's off campus, that catering rule does not apply. So you could purchase food from another location off campus if your event is off campus. So let's go to so that's the left side of the chart. It's public, it's on campus, must use catering. The other half of the chart on the right-hand side is for private events. Private events are basically meetings. Are you hosting a meeting of your organization? There's a business agenda. You're going to take care of the business of your organization. If that's the case, then you're really just promoting this to your membership, right? You may promote that there's a meeting, but your goal is to bring your membership together, and food may be a part of that if you choose. So as long as it has a business purpose, it is really has an agenda and a set of plans that you're trying to accomplish as an organization, then that's considered private and you are able to use off-campus food up to the amount or value of $200. Once you go over $200, then the catering contract kicks in and you would need to use catering instead for more expensive meal options. This is a chart that I pull out every time I talk to a group about what kind of food they can purchase. So it's not easy to navigate all the time, but we are happy to help you with that navigation. Catering's website, Warwick Dining's website is on the screen. You can see it's purpleplate.catertracks.com. You can make sure to look for the student org menu because there are some discounted items there for student organizations. And then the last thing I want to mention about sales and solicitation, or food, because it's both, is that all of these rules as far as what you can sell also apply to what you give out. So if you are promoting, you're trying to get people to register to vote, or you're trying to get people to join your organization or donate money to the American Cancer Society, those are all great things. But you have to follow the same rules. So there is no giving out of Coke products. There is no giving out of drinks at all unless you are purchasing them through campus dining services. It's exactly the same as a public event. You're publicly promoting something, which means you have to go through the contracted providers for those items, with the exception of candy and baked goods, because those are the things that we have an exception for fundraising as well. All right, so many more policies, and you know where to find them now. What we want to just remind you of is this. Student organizations are expected to uphold all campus policies. Presidents and advisors sign documents on behalf of each organization that state that you'll uphold the policies and that you expect and will help your members to do the same. Failure to do so can result in limitations placed on your organization and its members, including loss of recognition, misconduct investigations, both as individuals and as groups, and depending on the severity or frequency of the issues, different repercussions may happen. An upcoming event that may be helpful to you if your group plans to apply for funding for next year. This Friday, September 19th, we have a SUF 411, so an overview of the SUF application process. We have 2 sessions to choose from at noon and 1:30. And then any other events that we provide for student organizations are found in the Connect calendar, so under the Events tab at uw.edu/connect. The bookstore wanted to make sure that we mention that they have a custom shop that can do printings for t-shirts, sweatshirts, and such for student organizations. They have a really simple format for how to work with them, and they don't have minimums on their orders. So For our smaller groups, it's easier for you to place an order and know what the pricing is going to be and all that kind of stuff. From comparing their prices to the companies that our office typically works with, it's pretty consistent. But they also will do design work for you. So if you don't have somebody who's super artistic in your group or need a file in a certain format, they can help you make that happen. So the custom shop is found in the basement of the bookstore, and they're happy to assist you. If you have a member or members with documented disabilities, Student Activities and Involvement and SUFAC, the Segregated University Fee Allocation Committee, have an account that's set aside specifically to help student organizations help students with disabilities be able to fully participate in your events. So if you need an interpreter or a bus that's has a lift in it or other things that will help an individual with simple accommodations, we want to help you do that without it having to come out of the student organization's savings account or bank account. So the process in general is a student that has that documented disability contacts the Center for Students with Disabilities, says, hey, my group is going on a trip and we need some extra financial support. And then Center for Students with Disabilities will work with Student Activities and Involvement, and we will help arrange for that accommodation. And we will work to have that paid for out of the SUF ADA account. You can reach out to either of our offices for help with the process of how to make that all happen. All right, so we're going to talk just a little bit about Connect2 today. Connect2's mobile app is available for any phone platform, and it is absolutely free to all students. If students are still using the old-looking app, which was called Campus Groups, please encourage them to get rid of the old one and replace it with the UW branded one. It'll be the most up-to-date version of the technology. The app is excellent for students who are searching for opportunities, events, and groups, and for taking attendance at events and meetings. Anything that you want to do as an officer beyond that, though, I would encourage you to use the web browser. So let's go through some very basics about Connect. The first thing is, as an officer, anything an officer wants to do, you have to first go to your organization's page. Everything is inside of your group's page on Connect. From there, you're able to take attendance. You're able to track who's participating, message people who have checked in, understand who you're reaching. Maybe you are an accounting group, but most of your students are not yet college business students because they're in their early years of school. So that might be a way to make sure that they stick with accounting, right? If you know what they're asking for or what they need, you might change what kinds of events you do or who you're targeting your marketing to. It also helps us as a campus understand who isn't getting connected, which means we have the ability to provide different opportunities or change our methods to reach those who are not getting connected to the campus community. Of course, you're going to want to communicate with your members and with potential members, and Connect helps you do that as well. While we all know that email can be overwhelming at times, targeted intentional email is still one of the top 3 ways students say they hear about what's happening on campus. So the effort is worth your time if you're very intentional about it. So what I mean by that, send the messages through Connect. It still goes to the student's Outlook email, but you're able to track who opens it, who doesn't, who submits or RSVPs, and who doesn't. And then you can send reminders, but only to the people who need the reminder, right? So we're reducing the number of duplications and reminders for students. It also gives you a sense of, did this email work or was it confusing? And then the last thing that I think is my favorite part about being able to send emails through Connect is that any events that are in my group's page, any forms, any reminders, any things that are in my group's page, with a couple of clicks, I can embed them as images or links into the email. So I don't have to go back, upload pictures, make it pretty. The formatting is very consistent and students are able to access things very quickly. So it just allows us with less steps to get consistent messaging out. In addition, you can create templates, you can create newsletters, you can resend an email that you wrote a year ago with updates. You can see what other members of your group has sent out so you know you don't have to duplicate something. And you can also communicate one-on-one through Connect or with groups of people based upon officer status or membership status, things like that. So you have good ways to kind of track your communication methods. And then, of course, no system on our campus would work without some way to collect information, and that's where forms come into play. What I want you to know are two things. Number one, all student organizations can create forms. So if you need to collect data from students or community members, you can create forms in your group's portal. You can manage them, you can look at responses and so forth. And two, there is a process that is additional to this particular system called workflows, which allows us as a campus to automate a lot of the things that used to require students to walk from office to office. So most forms that you'll find that anyone in the University Center is creating, they're typically going to be on the Connect frequently used forms page. And based on how you answer questions, if other offices need to be informed, a lot of that is automated because of the way the system works. Not only increasing communication among departments and teams, but also increasing transparency with you of where things are in the process, so you're able to plan and move forward very efficiently. When you look at Connect as a URL, it's going to look kind of the same as the app. There are a lot of similarities and a lot of the same links. They are not exactly identical. And as I said earlier, please remember that using the browser is going to be much more helpful to you for most officer-related tasks, pretty much anything other than taking attendance. The first thing you need to do in order to create anything, edit anything, or view anything for your student group is to go to your groups page. And you do that right from the top bar where it says groups. You see a drop down. If you're a member, your group will likely show up in the drop down, or you can click the All Groups button and pick the group that you're looking to find out more about. As you go through your time here as a student org leader, of course, you're going to have times where you're gathering together. Please consider putting your events, whether they're meetings or parties or gatherings, anything you want students to know about, whether they're inside or beyond your organization, build an event on Connect. Those events then allow you to take attendance, to understand who's coming, RSVP, so you know how much pizza to order, all those kinds of things. So you understand who's going to be there or who did show up. You can ask for feedback. You can ask additional questions like what t-shirt size do you want? So there's all kinds of ways to really understand how people are interfacing or interacting with your events. There are a lot of other tools. And we could spend all day going through them. So just know that they're there. If you're a SUF-funded group, make sure to notice the Money tab because that's where our SAI budget interns will share balances for SUF-funded groups. And then the last piece on this page is the Settings tab. So if you see that membership is set up in a way that doesn't fit your organization, for example, last year's officers wanted to provide a password for people to become members, or membership was closed but you'd like it to be open. Those are all things you can change in settings, as well as descriptions about your group and so forth. If you need to submit an up-to-date constitution, you would submit that in the Files section, making sure that it is ratified within the last 5 years and that the date that it was ratified is within the document itself. So now that you've watched this training, this is what's left. You need to answer the questions on the form that is connected to this video. You got to get them all right, and then make sure you hit submit. You're going to check the org status link that you see here to understand what, if anything, you have left to finish by October 1st, and to be sure that we have the correct contacts on file. If that spreadsheet has the wrong president, treasurer, or advisor, that's because those are the people who started the process last spring, and we want to make sure that we have the right names and contact info. And then you need to check that your group's page on Connect is up to date. So first of all, go to the page. Do you have the officer rights you need? If you don't see all of those tools there, then we need to get your officer access set up. And then in addition to that, making sure that your Constitution is there, that it's on file and less than 5 years old. If all of the steps are done, then we will update the quiz scores as showing as complete on that org status spreadsheet, and your group will be good to go. If you need help with any step, please make sure to contact us. We're here to help. We're found in University Center, room 146. It's right by the computer lab on the main floor of the UC. You can reach out by email, involvement@uww.edu, or by phone, 262-472-6217. Again, 472-6217. And then you can take a look at this PowerPoint again if that's helpful to you by going back to the OrgRec2526 page, which has all the other resources related to org recognition. Thanks much and good luck with a great year.